Tonight, why was Nancy Guthrie's back door propped open? This as a Pima County Sheriff's deputy arrested for kidnap in the same jurisdiction as Nancy Guthrie is kidnapped. The FBI tonight looking for satellite images. Yes, they've been used in the past. Will they emerge as key evidence? Also tonight, a vehicle of interest. Why was the back door propped open?
It confirms the initial reports that entry was initially gained through the rear of the residence.
Yet we know Mrs. Guthrie went out the front door because that was her blood. Straight out to Dave Mack, Crime Stories investigative reporter. We are learning that roofers, electricians, HVAC workers are now under the microscope in the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie. What's happening?
Well, Nancy, one thing that has been learned is that there were a number of individuals that had legitimate access to Nancy Guthrie's home. In particular, there was an electrician, at least one, maybe more, that was there to replace an electrical panel. That was a big undertaking and required multiple days and work orders. That was leading up to the day she was kidnapped. We've got HVAC workers that were also reportedly doing service maintenance work on her HVAC system in the home in the weeks leading up to her disappearance on February 1st. These are all legitimate people, reportedly, that were there and are now being tracked back by investigators, each individual person.
This reference at 12 News, put up Dave Mack. What do you mean they were all legitimate? Do you know who was on the team of roofers working on her house? Do you know they were all legitimate? Were they day laborers that got picked up in the parking lot of the grocery store? You don't know that. Why did you say that?
I said legitimate because there were legitimate reasons for these people to be there. We don't know who they are. We don't have their names. And hey, a day laborer could have been picked up to do work that day. We don't know. We just know that there were legitimate work orders in place for the work being done, not the individuals.
Dave Mack, an 84-year-old grandmother is missing. Words matter. Words matter. Straight out to Brian Fitzgibbons joining us, Director Operations, USPA Nationwide Security. I can't say it enough. He leads a team of investigators around the world, finding and extracting missing people, including extractions from Mexico. Former Marine Iraqi war vet, Brian, I would expect this is SOP. I would be surprised if they didn't start, well, not nanos, but the FBI didn't start looking at the HVACs, the electricians, the roofers, day one. We've heard about landscapers and pool guys, but now we're hearing specifically about HVAC workers.
Yeah, exactly. And that search has expanded to anybody doing work inside of Mrs. Guthrie's house and I would say, important to remember, and in the neighboring properties. These are going to be HVAC technicians, electricians, general contractors, any type of repair work being done. The FBI will be meticulously going through those work orders, the dates, the times that those work orders were completed, and then most importantly, who was there on site and who has information about those people and getting an interview with them.
Scott Eicher, founding member of the FBI Cellular Analysis Survey Team, CAST, former FBI agent before that, former homicide, Norfolk, Virginia, 12 years, now with Precision Cellular Analysis experts. Eicher, don't you think the FBI zoomed in the moment they got there and started looking at, well, we know looking at pool guys and looking at landscapers, but now HVAC workers. We also know they looked at electricians, but now we're learning more about roofers and HVAC workers. Why?
Well, that's part of the process of when we go out and there's a crime scene, we're going to do a neighborhood canvass. That's not just talking to the neighbors. That's also figuring out who was normally in that area and who was there doing work or who was just visiting family in the area. You don't just narrow it down to people that live there. It's everybody that could have been in that area at the time the crime occurred and prior to the time occurring. So the workers there are definitely people that when I was in the FBI, we'd be tracking down and interviewing and validating their reasons to be there and where they were on the night of the crime.
We're just learning tonight that it's not just electricians, not just the pool guy and the landscaper, but specifically roofers and HVAC workers under the microscope. And Susanna Ryan joining us, lab director, forensic DNA analyst at Pure Gold Forensics. She is a consultant at Ryan Forensics, 25 years in the business of DNA and serology. Susanna, thank you for being with us. Day one, you look at them. Day two, you get their DNA. It's not hard. I stood there, warrant in hand, and said, I'm getting your DNA. Now, I did not perform the test because that would make me a witness at trial, but I stood there and watched it on many occasions. I watched it get put in a paper bag, sealed, signature written on it, and taken to the crime lab. How do you do it? How do you get the HVAC workers' DNA in the least intrusive manner possible?
It's very simple. It's just what we call a buccal swab. So it's just a swab from the inside of someone's mouth. We're collecting the cheek cells. And so that's a great source of DNA. We don't have to take blood anymore. So it's very simple. Put that swab in, swirl it around, collect it. And like you said, then you have it. Whether you actually have to test it or not, that's going to come down the road if you start having unknown profiles. But absolutely collect it. I can't tell you the number of cases that I have worked that it's turned out that, not to disparage construction workers. I'm not saying, these people are bad people in any way, but I have had a lot of cases where it's been a construction worker, someone that, as Dave Mack said, had legitimate access to the house, but performed a terrible act on a person living there. And that does have me concerned that perhaps one of these people who had this access to the house then blocked the door, put something in it so it didn't close completely because they were planning on coming back later that night to kidnap Miss Guthrie.
So roofers, electricians, HVAC workers, get in line. You're getting a buccal swab. It's really not hard. Just like Susanna Ryan's telling you, it's like a long Q-tip. And they just stick it in your mouth and swirl it around. They don't let you do it in a forensic buccal swab like you would take your own COVID test by sticking the Q-tip up your nose. No, they do it to make sure it's an accurate test. Very easy. In the time we've talked about it, we could have done maybe 3 or 4 buccal swabs. Now, next.
An 84-year-old grandmother vanishes without a trace, and nearly 60 days later, the questions are only getting darker. Nancy Guthrie was taken from her own home, a place that should have been safe, but when investigators arrived, something didn't add up. The back door was found propped open, suggesting someone may have entered or planned to return. Yet the blood was at the front door. That tells a different story, a struggle, a moment of violence, a point where everything changed. So what really happened inside that house? Investigators are now turning their attention to people who had legitimate access: electricians, HVAC workers, roofers, individuals who had been inside the home days, even weeks before Nancy disappeared, people who knew the layout, people who wouldn't raise suspicion. And now the possibility is chilling. What if someone planned this in advance? What if the door wasn't just left open but intentionally set up for a return? And then there's the evidence, or what might have been evidence. Blood outside the home, but what about inside? Was something missed? A rug, a surface, a detail that could hold DNA, footprints, answers. Because in cases like this, the smallest oversight can cost everything. Now take a second. If you're following this story, make sure you like this video, subscribe, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think this was planned or random? I want to hear what you think. As the investigation continues, attention shifts to something else: a vehicle. A gray or silver SUV or pickup truck spotted near the area. This could be more than just a car. It could be a second crime scene. Inside it, there could be blood, fibers, DNA, the missing link that ties everything together. And still no arrests, no confirmed suspects. Even advanced methods like satellite imaging are being considered. It's rare, but in a case like this, every possibility matters, because time is not on their side. Right now, this case sits in a dangerous place. Too many theories, not enough answers. But one thing is clear. Someone knows exactly what happened to Nancy Guthrie. And until that truth comes out, this story is far from over.
Sheriff's deputy arrested for kidnap of a female in this jurisdiction. Dave Mack, hit me.
Nancy, 22-year-old Travis Reynolds is a deputy or former deputy with Pima County, and he is accused of transporting a suspect. And during this transporting the suspect to jail, Travis Reynolds commented on her hotness, referring to her as a MILF and suggesting that he...
Hold on. Please stop. I've never heard it stated quite like that, Dave Mack. Did you say the Pima County Sheriff Deputy commented on her hotness? Her hotness. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. He commented on her hotness. That's not a felony. Keep going.
And suggested
It's not funny
that
either. Keep
he
going.
could help. No, I'm frank because of what it suggests, Nancy. He suggests he could actually help her case if they just popped over to a local
Oh, my stars,
hotel.
like he's some bargain. Look at this.
No, he's not
Please.
much.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
So once the woman is obviously very uncomfortable in this situation, but Reynolds doesn't let up. They go to the jail, and at the jail, this Pima County Sheriff's deputy at the time sits in the vehicle with the suspect. He doesn't take her inside the jail. The deputy sits in his car in the parking lot with, by the way, surveillance cameras facing the car where they can see them sitting in the car. During this time period of 2 hours, the suspect watches other suspects being taken in for booking into the jail and suggests, hey, let's go in. It's time. She's begging, take me into jail. Reynolds doesn't. They stay in the vehicle for 2 hours. During that time, Reynolds allegedly shows the suspect, videos, a male and female having sex. The victim believes.
Dave, it's called...
Yeah, homemade. Yeah,
Let me guess. Is he the star of the... Just
apparently, yes. Yeah.
Okay, keep going. Can you wrap it up? Because I don't see any connection. Go.
Well, he is charged with kidnapping. The former deputy, Travis Reynolds.
Wait, didn't you leave out? He made her show him her breasts before he would let her out of the car.
That is exactly what happened, and I did leave it out. I apologize. So once she showed him her breast, the deputy then escorted the victim suspect into the jail where she was booked. He was later arrested by Tucson police because he is a deputy with Pima County, and he is arrested and charged with kidnapping and is being held on $200,000 bond.
Okay, I'm going to throw this to Scott Eicher. Eicher, I need to see Eicher. Not seeing him. There he is. What's wrong with men? What is wrong with men?
I can tell you that that's kind of sickening, and it's abuse of a power of a police officer. I mean, you've already got someone in a position where they can't fight back, and you are suggesting these type of events and stuff like that for some favors. It's sickening, in my opinion.
I don't see a connection. That the modus operandi, method of operation, completely different than that of Nancy Guthrie. But we still have to look at it. I mean, if he'll try to force himself on one female in this jurisdiction, he may very well. He has not been charged. He has not been named a person of interest in the Nancy Guthrie case. My gut is he's not part of that. So please don't run up to his apartment with pitchforks and torches. Please don't. That said, you still have to look at it, Eicher. You can't ignore it.
I agree that this doesn't look like it's having any connection to the Nancy Guthrie case. Just the fact that they used the term kidnapping, that's going to make the news, and it's in Pima County. but I don't see at this point in time any connection to Miss Guthrie's case.
Okay, what about it, Fitz?
I agree that, hey, the unfortunate thing here is this is yet again another negative blow in the media to Pima County that's unrelated to the case, but also will tie up significant resources amongst their leadership, right? Because at the end of the day, Pima County leadership is going to have to react to this. They're going to have to answer questions. They're going to be dealing with lawyers. This is yet again another distraction against their efforts for finding Mrs. Guthrie.
Let me see, Fitz. You know what you just did? You just gave me a night terror. I'll be dreaming about this tonight because this fits right in with SOD. Some other dude did it defense. When we finally do catch the perp, and it will be a man, if not more than one man, they're going to say, hey, look, this Pima County sheriff, he's a kidnapper right under your nose. Maybe he did it. That could get one juror to veer off the path into the weeds. See what I'm saying? This is bad.
Yeah, that's a great point. And, problems compound in moments like this where, this piece of information, a defense attorney armed with that can point to their reaction to this case. What were the communications? Was this individual ever in Mrs. Guthrie's neighborhood for any reason? And that could just be a major distraction at trial.
If you have been leaning on credit cards lately just to cover living basics like groceries, gasoline, utility bills, you're essentially paying a survival tax of 20% interest or more. American Financing is helping homeowners tap into their equity to pay off high interest debt with mortgage rates currently in the fives. On average, American Financing is saving their customers $800 a month. Not just $800, but $800 a month. There are no upfront fees to talk to a salary-based mortgage consultant. Why do I care about that? Because they don't get a percentage of sales. They're salary-based. Start today. You could even delay 2 mortgage payments. American Financing, America's home for home loans. 866-888-0344. That's 866-888-0344. Or simply go to americanfinancing.net/Nancy. And good luck. Thank you, Joe Scott Morgan, for being with us tonight, forensics investigator and professor of forensics at Jacksonville State University. Joe Scott, I want to talk about the evidence outside Nancy Guthrie's front door. We've seen a lot. We've seen the mat, which I know you want to talk about. We've seen the rocks, the debris, the foliage on top of the mat. I want to talk to you about some Ozark Trail shoes. Ozark Trail shoes. Now, Joe Scott, we know that the backpack was an Ozark Trail backpack from Walmart, but Ozark Trail shoes. I want you to look at the bottom of the tread and compare it to blood found outside Nancy Guthrie's front door.
Yeah, you take a look at this image, Nancy, and you begin to think about, well, is there any kind of discernible tread pattern that is contained in there? Now, let me preface this by saying that the image that you're seeing with the blood droplets, that's not coming from the police. That's coming from somebody in the press, okay? So the quality of that image will be enhanced relative to the pictures that they took as crime scene investigators. So you'll be able to see more fine detail in that. Now, why is this important? It's important when you begin to think about that Ozark Trail tread there. And our tread on our shoes is very distinctive to us in the way that we walk. So what they're looking for, first off, is a general categorization of these treads. Is it something that could potentially be, looking at the image of the blood, is there an image that is consistent with the tread pattern on the Ozark tread, on the Ozark shoes? Now, if that is in fact the case, if they are able to get their hands on shoes, like shoes, for instance, they would do a comparison at that moment in time, particularly if they find them with a suspect, Nancy. And what's going to make those particularly identifiable is the wear pattern. How do we wear our shoes? Do we pronate, supinate? Are we heel strikers? Are we toe strikers? You begin to think about that, and that will come through in that image.
Okay, I want to talk to you about the Ozark Trail shoes. And we had been looking at various shoes to determine their shoe patterns on the bottom, their tread marks. This is from a photo I found on X from a guy who talks shit on X. His words, not mine. Now, we're seeing the bottom of the pattern. I want you to look at the Ozark Trail shoe itself. Here is a side shot of the Ozark Trail men's low hiker boots. Now, let's compare that to the video of the porch guy. Let's look at his shoes. Joe Scott, they actually look more like the Ozark Trail shoe than they do, for instance, a regular pair of Nikes or tennis shoes with stripes down the side or a logo.
Yeah, and there's a very distinctive pattern here, Nancy, that let me just, kind of frame this up for you. With the FBI, with their digital folks that are taking a look at these images, if they trim this out and they focus in on these particular shoes, they'll be able to super enhance these. This video is so good compared to a lot of the stuff I've seen over the years relative to specific types of shoes. They can enhance this image to the point where I think that they could probably come up with branding, and what you're looking for are specific identifiers. If you take a look at the tip of that shoe, you've got the rubber sole that actually rises up to meet the toes. All right. Look at that. And then you look at that kind of striped area that's kind of highlighted. If you can really see it on the heel of this shoe. Well, that's unique to that shoe. And Nancy, in forensic science, that comes down to something. There's a principle that we have that's referred to as individualization. That means that we're tying specific brands, items back to a particular person. And so all of those, when you take that total aggregate there and you kind of shake it down, you're looking for something that is going to be unique to that individual. Where could he have purchased these shoes? Do they show any kind of wear on them on the sides at all? And again, through the enhancement, perhaps the digital enhancement that the FBI is going to render up, that's going to be a very specific identifier for these. And again, going back to branding, we talked about the book bag. We've talked about the shoes. Oh yeah, by the way, what about the holster as well? Remember, there was talk that was potentially purchased through Walmart, either online or maybe at a store itself. So you've got three things here that we're looking at.
I want to talk to you also, Joe Scott Morgan, about speculation that blood was found inside Nancy Guthrie's front door.
Yep.
If there was a rug there, like an entrance hall, an entrance area rug that's very, very common, that may have, those blood spots may have escaped detection because it blends in with a rug. How do you go about getting blood spatter, if there is any, from off the rug?
Well, you're not going to get it off. It's an excellent question. You're not going to get it off. You don't want to remove it, but what you want to do is test it. Okay. So what they're going to do first, and this is kind of fascinating, people might be interested in this. If they take that rug, they're going to subject it to alternative light sources back at the state crime lab or with the FBI. And what that means is they're going to utilize things like infrared photography, and they're going to see if they can't enhance any kind of stains that might be on that rug. Now, can we definitively say that stain came about as a result of this event with her? No, we can't necessarily say that. However, the presence of some kind of biological sample there is significant. So what you want to do for
Joe Scott, please come out of your ivory tower for just one moment. There's blood on her front porch. If there's blood just on the inside of the door, what do you think? She cut her leg shaving right there? Of course it's connected.
Well, it could very well be, and it could be that she had a spontaneous bloody nose as well, and I think that people would argue that.
Put him up. So you're telling me, with blood on the front porch, the night she's kidnapped, You're actually trying to suggest that one day she's walking by her front door and she suddenly has a spontaneous nosebleed? No. It would be connected. Just pretend with me. Go out on a limb. It's connected. It was from the same night. Blood on the outside of the door, blood on the inside of the door. I'm talking to you about getting blood, DNA, spatter, aspirated, I don't know, off of the interior rug, if there is one at the front door, and if it was overlooked by Nanos's people when they first went in. Thinky. It'd still be there on the rug, Joe Scott. That's what I'm saying.
Well, hopefully they did collect it at that moment in time and preserve it. If for no other reason to get it.
Doesn't that go without saying? I mean, it's way out of my province to correct a professor of forensics, but of course I hope they got the blood. I'm sorry, I'm like 10 steps ahead of you right now. Of course I hope they got the blood.
Let me tell you this. I hope that they got the rug that was going into the house. They didn't, though, did they? They left it out there.
No, they
left
didn't.
it on the stoop. No, oh, really? I saw it in the image. I saw it in the image there, Nancy. Now, maybe they came back later and collected it, but they didn't collect it in the moment. And let me tell you one other thing, if you like that.
No, they didn't. It's probably still sitting there, Joe Scott. That's why I wanted it explored.
Well, yeah, I wanted to explore too. And, I'm more than happy to go teach classes for these people because obviously they skipped over the day where we talk about securing and collecting evidence because they didn't in that first pass that they did. Now, I don't know who showed up that 36 hours later. I hope they had the good sense to collect it. I hope they had the good sense to collect everything inside of that door, Nancy, and anything else that's on that surface in that house. Because let me tell you something, the clock is ticking. It has been ticking now for many, many weeks. And they missed something initially here. That is, this guy is stomping all over that rug. Put him back up. Show the video of him walking up. He's walking up to that. He's putting his feet down there in the Nest camera video that we're looking at, Nancy. That's a pretty significant piece of evidence because not only do we have blood deposition on the surrounding area and you can't see it on that rug. Gee, I wonder why, because it's black. You would have to have some kind of contrast medium to be able to show it up right there. And then I guarantee you dollars to donuts, there's blood deposition on that doormat right there. And God only knows what's inside of the house. Like you said, in the receiving area, if there's a carpeted space in there, if there's a welcome mat, where you wipe your feet and all that sort of thing, or even a runner, you think about that. Well, you can have blood deposition there as well. So it draws into question for me from a forensic standpoint. Is there going to be value here? Because once you do not secure the scene, then all bets are off. You're going to have the lawyers that are going to come in and say, well, anybody could have come up to that location after this and could have planted anything, or it could have been destroyed, or it could have been altered. This is a train wreck, Nancy. Pure and simple when you look at this.
You were seeing video earlier from our friends at Fox News, and I want to point out the reason Joe Scott Morgan and I are angry and upset tonight is because we see errors. We see mishandling of the crime scene. We see possibilities that may very well still exist that could give us clues, not just clues, evidence as to who took Nancy Guthrie. And we're going to go down swinging, fighting. When we hit bottom, we'll still be swinging up. That is why Joe Scott and I and everybody on this panel tonight is still fighting, still angry, still searching, still looking for answers. Another idea, Joe Scott Morgan, the back door. Oh, hey, I want you to hear what Savannah said about the blood. Listen, Joe Scott.
She can't wander off. She was in tremendous pain. Her back was very bad. So there was no wander off. And the doors were propped open.
Yeah.
And there was blood on the front doorstep. And the Ring camera had been yanked off.
Yeah.
So, Joe Scott, we hear her saying there was blood on the doorstep. That's what they saw that morning. That does not preclude blood on the rug in the entrance hall or blood in the entrance hall, which they would definitely have stepped on. The perp and Mrs. Guthrie would have stepped on the blood on the inside and maybe Annie, maybe the husband, maybe the police, had they not seen it, but it could still actually be there. That was from Today YouTube, by the way. Okay, Joe Scott, jump in.
Yeah, there's any number of places. You think about, let's just say we're talking about a carpet, okay? It's interwoven. So you can actually have blood deposition that actually gets into the weave of the carpet. And again, even with any kind of trace evidence, this is very delicate stuff. You have to be very, very careful about it, where you're trying to pull things out or try to enhance them so that you can examine them, because there's two types of examination that we're thinking about here. First off, if there is in fact biological data contained within the rug, you have to be able to assess that. And then if there is blood deposition, which means that there is a specific pattern, that has to be assessed. So we're talking about photography, and we're talking about biological assessment in the lab, Nancy.
From our friends at Fox News, 2 other quick items. Joe Scott Morgan, 1, we know the door was propped open in the back. What evidence can we get from that? Doorknob, how was it propped open? Was it propped open with a rock? Can I get DNA off that? Was it propped open with a chair? Did they move it with their hands? Did they all wear gloves? What can I get from that?
Oh my God. I think about the surface of what, when Savannah says it was propped open, all right, that doesn't just mean that it's open. That means that some item, that generally implies that some item was used to facilitate that, right? So I am thinking about things like trace evidence relative to fingerprints. I'm thinking about any kind of deposition relative to potential DNA. If it is a rock, if it's an iron bar, if it's a piece of wood, I don't know. And also, you think about, in addition to that, any kind of trace evidence that might be on the doorknob or on the actual door jamb, where you're actually opening the door, where you're putting your hands on there to try to get it open. And propped, I wonder if we can put into this world, into this environment, the idea that it could have been pried. All right. Now they're saying no signs of forced entry. That's something that I'm going to be very curious about. Was the lock jimmied in any way? We had talked about lock picking some time ago. Did somebody get access to that lock? Or is it commonly unlocked? That's a big question, too, because some people feel secure in their homes. Maybe she left it unlocked.
That's from Fox Flight Team. That's a really good point, Joe Scott, because we heard that Mrs. Guthrie sometimes left her back door unlocked. So there's so many directions to go. Okay, what were you just saying?
No, I was just saying that I think that the idea here is, are there any tool marks on that door whatsoever? Are there any tool marks on the key access area, that point where you make contact with a key going into the lock? Did anybody pry anything? Was anything pressured? Did somebody put a shoulder into it? Does it open in? Does it open out? Is it something you have to pull? So all of those dynamics come into play. And when you're at a crime scene, Nancy, this is how your brain has to work as an investigator. You want to consider all possibilities.
Hi guys, Nancy Grace here. Please join us on Crime Stories and stream it first on Fox 1. When breaking crime news develops, we investigate it and bring it to you. Bombshell updates, answers to unanswered questions from cases making the headlines and cases you may never have heard of until Crime Stories. We go inside investigations with exclusive interviews, crime victims, families seeking justice, investigators, experts, and sources from within the case itself. Stay on top of the nation's biggest trials with us, including gavel-to-gavel coverage with real-time analysis. Crime Stories with Nancy Grace. Stream it first on Fox 1. I hope to see you there, and thank you, friend.
Another issue, and this goes to Iker. We saw in the Kyle Rittenhouse case that satellite images were used. Actually, they were infrared images. Explain how that helped crack the case and bring out the truth in the Rittenhouse incident.
The problem is you cannot predict when the satellites are going to come over and use and find the video or imagery at the time of the crime is very, very unusual. So actual imagery is not very helpful 99% of the time. The 1% of the time that there is some sort of satellite or aerial drone or a plane doing mapping, that's a possibility that it randomly came over a crime scene at a specific time. But there's so many different things that could cause you not to get the imagery, like clouds or a storm or something like that. The satellites can't see the ground at those specific times.
Let me see, Iker. Iker, you know what I don't like? I don't like anybody telling me why something's impossible. I like somebody telling me possibilities. Yes, I know about clouds. I'm just a trial lawyer, but I know clouds will obstruct an airplane's vision of the earth below. I understand that concept. So tell me how it could work, man. I'm looking for answers here. I'm upset that we're at day 59 and seemingly not any closer to finding Nancy Guthrie. So I'm looking for answers. I don't need to hear why it might not work. Throw me a bone, Iker. How could it work?
I totally agree with you. We're all frustrated at this situation. And I was explaining that, the FBI, and we always want to look at all the possibilities, but we also have to take into the fact that when we go for this type of evidence, we have to be lucky if things actually happen the way we want. Example.
Well, then how would I find it? Tell me how I can get lucky. Okay. How can I find infrared aerial surveillance? How do I find it? What do I do? If it's there, yes, I know it may not be there. Yes, I know it may be cloudy. I get it. But how do I find it? Show me a path to a maybe, a definite maybe.
This is exactly like the video from the front porch. Remember the Pima County Sheriff said, there's nothing there. You've got to follow those breadcrumbs and keep pushing to try to find it. So we got the video. So let's go see what aerial satellites or aerial drones or other stuff that were in the area at the time that the crime occurred. So maybe we'll get something there. You don't leave it to chance. You got to fight for it and continue pushing to get to the end of and get that evidence.
Okay, be honest with me. Would the feds consider this? Would they have already thought of this?
Yes, they would have. I've done it in my cases.
Okay. Back to you, Dave Mack. I want to hear about a vehicle of interest. I'm understanding that it would be a gray SUV or a gray pickup, a silver or gray SUV, and or a silver or gray pickup truck. Is this true? And the reason I'm asking, I'm going somewhere with this. I'm going to a secondary crime scene. That's where I'm going. So tell me what you know about a potential vehicle of interest.
Since the beginning of this investigation, the investigators have been trying to identify vehicles of interest, and they've narrowed it down to two specifically. One, a white van. The other, a gray or silver SUV or pickup truck, as you mentioned. So we're looking at two basic types of vehicles that are believed to have been possibly in the neighborhood that are unaccounted for, meaning they don't belong to anyone that lives there or a resident that had a friend in the neighborhood. So we're talking about two vehicles that were in the neighborhood that have been drawn down to by investigators as interest. Now, FBI and Pima County Sheriff's deputies, they searched and towed a gray or silver Range Rover, if you remember that, from the Culver's restaurant about 2 miles away from the parking lot. 2 miles away from Nancy Guthrie's home. We saw that happened 13 days into the investigation. We've also seen early on, investigators were at a Circle K gas station on Oracle Road in Tucson. Again, this is about 1.5 miles to 2 miles from Nancy Guthrie's home, where they were investigating a vehicle of interest, trying to get video, surveillance video from the Circle K. These are two ongoing issues, and they've narrowed it down to the white van or the gray/silver SUV or truck.
They seem to be off the white van and now onto the gray or silver truck or SUV. And I guarantee you, Iker, they're getting something, and it fits in with the vehicle that was towed and other vehicles of interest they've been looking at. SUVs, trucks, gray or silver. Question to you. I remember when we were investigating the Tot Mom case, Casey Anthony. It's actually the Kaylee Anthony case. She was the 2-year-old murder victim. And I think it was either Target or Walmart could enhance the video of Tot Mom writing a fake check, fraudulently writing a check on a friend's checking account so well I could practically see her cleavage, which I did not need to see. Why can't the FBI, or can they, enhance that video that we keep showing in the hopes that someone will recognize a vehicle? Can they? Are they? Is that what's happening right now?
It all depends on the quality of the video initially. And can they slow it down? It depends on the amount of frames per second that recording initially has. When you can slow it down, if there's more frames per second, you get more detail. If you have less frames per second, it's very grainy, and that's where you run into some problems. But they're working on it. They're hopefully get maybe a download from the company itself and not from the neighbor who provided that video.
Susanna Ryan joining us, lab director, forensic DNA analyst at Pure Gold Forensics. Susanna, I mentioned the reason I'm curious, the reason I want to find that vehicle is because it represents a secondary crime scene. Explain the significance of finding that secondary crime scene.
Well, if we're able to locate that vehicle, and we know that Nancy was bleeding, so it's likely we'll be able to find her blood, but what else is going to be in that vehicle is the suspect's DNA. Even if they stole this vehicle, for example, it takes a very short amount of time for someone to leave their DNA behind in a vehicle, even if they're trying to avoid that. I always think of people shedding DNA like Pigpen and Charlie Brown. Like, you're constantly leaving DNA behind. Every time you speak, you're leaving DNA behind. So anything on that vehicle could have perpetrator's DNA, steering wheel, gear shift, any controls or knobs, the door going in and out of the vehicle. So it would be highly probative, very useful to find that vehicle. I think it's great that now we have something to look for. That was exactly what I was going to say today. Like, what is the vehicle? Do we have anything? I think it should be released because people want to help. If people start seeing, oh, there's a car that hasn't moved for days in this parking lot, then they can leave a tip, and maybe that's the key to solving this case.
If you know or think you know anything about the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, please dial toll-free 800-CALL-FBI, 800-225-5324. Or, if you wish to remain anonymous, 520-882-7463. There is a $1.2 plus million reward for information leading to her whereabouts. No arrest and certainly no conviction required for you to claim this reward. $1.2 million reward. We remember American hero Officer Trey Sutton, Henrico County PD, Virginia, just 24, killed in the line of duty, leaving behind his grieving fiancée. American hero Officer Trey Sutton. Thank you to our guests, but especially to you for helping us keep the search for Nancy Guthrie alive. Nancy Grace signing off for tonight, but I'll see you tomorrow night. And until then, good night, friends.